All right, guys, this is Emmett again, the Alpha Builder. All right, guys, this right here, slavery impact on today's builders. Now, this video is inspired by a comment that was made by a certified carpenter. And the comment was, one of my main thoughts that I always wondered was that, is this maybe part of the outcome of slavery? And that's not just with construction field. That could be with, how a lot of us act in the streets as well. They are quickly to tell you that a lot of stuff is hereditary, that people have wrong with them. But what about slavery? What if slavery also has us the way we are? So, and what he's talking about, guys, what he's talking about is a video that I did, and that video was about how African American men cannot just come together and work together as a team, as one unit. We can't do it, and one of the main reasons that we can't do it is because we are born in a matriarch in which we have to always seek validation through our women, and so we don't want another male business partner headbutting with the women that we have that's intimately involved in our business. Okay, so mushroom coffee. So this right here, this is a good comment, guys, and comment actually helps stimulates content. And I would say that I don't think that slavery is the reason why we are the way we are today. Now, did slavery have an adverse effect on the way we think and operate? I mean, if you look at the Willie Lynch files, that they say that, I don't know how true that is, but they say that impact and those things that were done during slavery, it is affecting us today. Kind of like the Stockholm syndrome, I think that's what they call it. I don't think that's the case, guys. And I'm gonna try to logically explain to you why I don't think that's the case. Guys, immediately after, and I got some notes here, guys. I might have to kind of diverge from these notes, and I'm gonna do my best here. But immediately after the emancipation of the slaves, guys, and that was in 1863 when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation to free the slaves. After 1863, black people actually were getting better. Even though they didn't have anything, they didn't have any programs, anything to reintroduce black people into the society and being, freeing them since they've been under somebody's umbrella all their life. Black people actually were able, without any of that, they were able to go out here and they actually got better. They had their own economy. The black men were the builders. There were more black builders during that time. They were the builders. They built their own. They were carpenters, builders, electricians, plumbers. We did that. Black men. As a matter of fact, prior to 1931, or prior to the Davis-Bacon Act of 1931, black men overwhelmingly secured most of the government contracts in construction. And the reason I said prior to 1931 in the Davis-Bacon Act is because when the Davis-Bacon Act came out, that was what we call the minimum wage law. And if you guys understand how this works, at one point in time, the African-American contractors were able to underbid all the white contractors during that time because we had more unskilled laborers. We did. And we were able to pay them less, but we were able to get the job done. But those unskilled laborers was getting something that was more important than money itself. And that was experience. The experience to be able to teach their sons and their sons and have your own business and thrive. And that's what the black contractors were able to do because they were securing all the government contracts, because they were able to underbid everybody else. But when they came out with the Davis-Bacon Act, the minimum wage law, which means that you had to pay everybody the same, we couldn't get our costs down anymore, so we didn't get those contracts anymore. And that destroyed the black contractors. Well, it didn't destroy them all, but it did hurt them. We couldn't secure any more government contracts like we used to because we were the builders. But even still, guys, we were actually getting better. We had our own economy, had our own stuff. We were forced to work with each other. We couldn't. And guys, this was prior to the Jim Crow laws of 1968. You know, when they forced us, they made sure that, you know, prior to 1968, you know, it was legal to segregate. So we had our own economy, had our own stuff, did our own thing. With our own stores, Black Wall Streets and stuff like that. We were actually getting better. We were doing better. And another thing that you guys got to understand too, there's a correlation with this right here, and people they want to dance around this one right here, guys. See, immediately after the emancipation of the slaves, 1863, 90 to 95% of the African Americans during that time were married. The kids were being raised in households with their fathers. They had a family structure similar to the way the Bible, you guys, I'm not a Bible thumper. Keep telling you guys I'm not a Bible thumper. God, the man, the mother, and the kids. That's how it was back then. And we were thriving. Yeah. 90 to probably 95%. Now, just so happens there was a correlation with that. Okay? And we were getting better. So now, guys, I would say that, you know, if slavery had an adverse effect on us and made us the way we are today, then you would have saw a progressively down spiral after slavery, but you didn't see that. We were actually, the slavery was going down, and then after slavery, we started going up. We're going to look at what changed to make it start going back down again. Well, what changed? The change occurred, and I remember when this happened, guys, I started seeing the down spiral of the African-American community around the 80s and 90s. This is when you had gangs, the Bloods and the Crips and Colors. I think the movie The Colors came out during that time. We started that. Drugs. We started selling drugs. That started coming into the community and things like that. This is when we start seeing that stuff. This is when we start to spiral downhill. Well, in order to understand how we got there with all these thugs and gangs and stuff like that, you got to look about 10 to 15 years before that and what conditioned these boys and girls to be the way they were in the 90s and the 80s, to be in those gangs and things like that. Well, what happened prior to that? Yeah, there we go. 1964. You had Lyndon B. Johnson and the welfare state. And if you guys don't know what the welfare state did, I'll tell you. What it did was, well, first of all, Lyndon Johnson, I don't think I think they said Lyndon Johnson was a racist guy, and he probably was racist, but Lyndon Johnson was on his, he was getting close to his death. And I think he was making one attempt to do something good. And the intent was to help black people, because he spent all his life probably trying to crush him. But the intent was the welfare state. And what this welfare state was, and what it was called the War on Poverty, and it was the Economic Opportunity Act, which is the welfare state. And they went from door to door, and they was giving government assistance to blacks, to black women. And they would give it to them, but here's the catch. you couldn't have a father in the household, or you couldn't have a man in the household. And they would come by and do random checks to make sure that there were not any remnants of a man in that household. And if they found something, they would shut off that housing voucher. They would shut off that food voucher. They would give you food stamps, etc. They shut all that off. So this encouraged African-American women to get rid of their men. I don't need a man. This is when you start hearing that. I don't need a man. I'm strong and independent. I don't need no man. As long as I got the government giving me these handouts, and even though I'm living like this right here, I'm good. And this is when the black woman in droves, in masses, man, they did away with their men. They didn't need men. So now, instead of having 90% or 95% of kids being born in a family structure with a father, now we're at 75 to 80% of our kids being born out of wedlock. They don't have fathers anymore. So now we're in a situation where kids are born and raised without men in the household, kind of like those hyenas. They don't have to have a man around nowhere. They don't have to respect men. This is why you get such disdain attitude against black men now, because people are not used to being around them because you don't have them in the household. But this is what happened. Now, the intent was one thing, but the effects was another thing. I think what should have happened when they started seeing that they were destroying the black nuclear family, they should have pivoted that Economic Opportunity Act. But they didn't. It actually got worse. And then when you get, when you add DHR and all that stuff and these courts and child support and stuff like that, when you put that into the mix, I mean, it is a mess. So this is what happened. This is what created the mindset. So now, a couple more things happened too, guys. I'll get into that too. I mean, it was a hammer. It was one hammer after the next hammer. And was just banging us down all the way to the ground. Black men, it was banging them down all the way to the ground. The next thing was affirmative action. 1961? It was called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or affirmative action. And they would give corporations federal tax breaks if they hired what you would call minorities. Now, during that time, the minority became men and women, black people and women. But now here's the catch. These corporations would get double tax benefits if they simply hired a black woman. Does that make sense? So you hire a black woman, you only have to hire one person, and that would get you double the benefit, or double the tax credit. And this is why so many of those corporations in droves would hire women, and they would actually put them in human resource. Well, why human resource? I'm glad you asked. Well, number one, when you're in human resource, they get paid, human resource director, they get paid pretty good, but you have no decision in the direction of the company. You can't make those decisions like the VPs, et cetera, or the presidents and all those guys. So number one, you don't have a decision, but you're in that position. And number two, they can use you as a guard dog to keep black men out, because we know that since you have been raised in a household with no black men around, you have absolutely no respect for African-American men, that in most cases you would give him a harder time than white men in trying to get employed at a place of business. That was another thing. That was another hammer. Then the next hammer came, guys. I mean, they were just coming at us one by one, buddy. The next one is 1985, 1986. Well, 1985, there was a movie came out. And it just, see, guys, let me explain this right here to you. At one point in time, African-American men, well, you had the feminist movement. And I don't have the date that the feminist movement came out, but you had 1, 2, 3. I think now we're in the fourth wave of feminism. But the first and second wave of feminism, I think one of them came in the 1970s. And they was burning their bras and stuff like that. And what they did was the white liberal convinced black women. See, guys, you got to understand, feminism was a problem that white women had with white men. See, and the reason that we didn't have that problem was because black men during that time were not in a position to deny black women upward mobility in the job force, because we didn't have all the jobs. We didn't have the banks. We couldn't deny them loans at the bank. And so black women, along with white women, got into, they got together and they did the feminism. Well, that was a war between white females and white males. That was their, our women didn't have that problem. Until they made, in 1985, they made the movie called The Color Purple. And we're not going to get into, well, I don't even want to go there. But guys, when that movie came out, for some reason, black women thought that every black man was just like Mr. on The Color Purple. And that just drove another wedge between African-American male and female relationship and how we get along and how we interact and engage. Then 1986, so 1985, The Color Purple. And guess what happened in 1986? The Oprah Winfrey Show. This created a platform where Oprah could bash black men and bash them and beat them all the way down into a bloody pulp. This is what's happened. So now we're in a matriarch. That put and just like I was saying on my video, if you guys look at my video that I put out, we're in a matriarch now. And this is what I think happened. This is the dynamics, and this is what I think happened in the African-American community. Now, was it by design? I don't know. But and this is just a few of them, guys. There were other things. I didn't even go into crack. You know, that just amplified things. And then you look at where we're at today. The black community is on life support, guys. I don't even, guys, it's black contractors. It's hard to be a black contractor, man. Well, an African-American male contractor. It's tough. Now, I'm saying, well, just African-American in general, but, you know, the males, it's like a double whammy. We got to fight so many different platforms or so many different battles just to be as good. This is what I think happened, guys. I don't think that, like I said, slavery, yes, it did probably have an adverse effect on the way we think. But I don't think that was the problem. I think it was this series of events that has driven a wedge between our family, between the African-American woman and the African-American man, to the point to where our family structure is not here anymore. If you look at the communities that are doing the best today, one thing you can look at, if you look at the guys, look at who's doing it. The Indian, people from India, family. You look at Asian population, family. They have their family. They overwhelmingly have their family together. We're at the bottom of the totem pole as African Americans. Whites are not that far behind now because their families are being broken up too. This court systems and stuff like that. And this hatred, and there's a hate toward white males. So he has it just as guys, and now the good thing about him is he has a little bit more history. He has a little bit more people that can help him out as far as family members and things like that can help him grow his business and things. He have access to more resources and funding because he have family members and things like that. That helps him out. But there's a hatred toward white men. And in today's culture, because of sheer numbers, he's probably hated more than African-American men. There's really just a hatred toward masculinity in general, period. So this is what I think happened, guys. I don't know, hey, this might stimulate some more content. Somebody may, but guys, send this to somebody else. Let's get this discussion going. Let's figure this thing out. But I think we own this thing. You guys, once again, guys, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. Send it to a friend. Let's figure this out. You guys have a good one.